Right in the middle of my vacation, a message from my son lit up my phone. "Mom, we know this is technically your beach house, but we want some private time with my wife's family, so could you move to a hotel?" I simply replied, "Understood." And with that single word, I played my final card. What happened, just an hour later, shook my in-laws so deeply, they begged my son to leave their daughter. Dear listeners, before I begin this difficult tale, I'm asking you for a small kindness. If my story touches you in any way, please like this video, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments which city or state you're listening from. Your messages always warm my heart. Knowing my voice travels so far keeps me going. Now, let's begin. The midday heat here in the low country doesn't simply warm your skin, it devours you. Strips everything down to its core. Baking stones, the dry perfume of Spanish moss, the endless shrill buzz of cicadas that drills into your skull by twilight. But on the terrace of Indigo Point, the heaviness in the air wasn't from humidity. It came from the solid, suffocating silence blanketing the dining table. I stood at my kitchen island, my back to my guests, slicing through a ripe watermelon, the blade gliding into the pink flesh with a soft crackle. This was my kitchen. I designed every inch of it 20 years back. I knew why the windows angled southwest, catching sunset light without letting in that merciless noon blaze. I remembered fighting with contractors over these ivory Italian tiles and the exact height of the counters. Every corner of this home was carved by my mind, my money, my sweat. Yet today, I felt like a ghost, drifting between my own walls, a silent servant tasked with cooking, clearing, and vanishing. At the long terrace table, beneath a pergola heavy with wisteria blooms, sat the self-proclaimed rulers of the world. My son Sterling avoided my eyes completely, staring into his plate as if hoping to disappear inside it. His shoulders slumped, and for a split second I saw the little boy who used to hide behind my dress whenever he broke a window. Only now, he wasn't hiding behind me, he was hiding from me. Across from him, Thaddeus and Zenobia Vance, my daughter-in-law's refined, condescending parents, nibbled at the red snapper I had prepared, wearing expressions like they were granting the fish the privilege of being eaten. Zenobia, a broad woman drowning in gold jewelry that clashed horribly with a beachside lunch, dabbed her lips and pushed her plate away. "The fish is a bit dry," she declared loudly to no one in particular. "Remember that restaurant in Savannah, Thaddeus? Their snapper was much more tender." Thaddeus grunted without looking up, thumbing through his phone. The service was better, too, but the loudest presence at the table was Karis. My daughter-in-law sat at the head of the table, pouring chilled wine as if she'd hosted here all her life. Her white summer dress glowed beautifully against her dark skin, but the expression she wore could have sliced glass. She surveyed the terrace like a conqueror inspecting her new domain. "Mom, Dad, wait till you hear our plans," she sang, her voice scraping through me like metal. "Sterling and I decided this whole wall here has to go. We'll open it up, install floor-to-ceiling glass. And this garden," she waved dismissively at my rose bushes, the ones I'd tended for years, choosing varieties that could survive the salty air. "Too old-fashioned. All these flower beds. We want minimalism. Concrete, glass, clean lines. Right, babe?" Sterling stiffened and nodded quickly, stuffing bread into his mouth to avoid speaking. "Yes, honey. Whatever you like." I froze, holding the tray of watermelon. Something icy lodged itself inside my chest. They were discussing the destruction of my home, my life's project, as if I were an invisible staff member, an outdated fixture ready to be tossed out. "Miss Alea," Karis's voice cracked like a whip, "we're out of wine. Bring another bottle, and more ice. This has melted." She didn't look at me, just snapped her fingers in the air. The Vances exchanged a quick smirk, the kind reserved for those they believe beneath them. In their minds, the world held only two categories: those who command, and those who obey. To them, I, the owner of this multi-million-dollar property, was merely a charity case playing housemaid. I breathed out slowly. Anger clouds judgment, and judgment is structure, and I was an architect. When a foundation cracks, you don't patch it with emotion. But for the sake of my son, I swallowed my pride. "I'll bring it," I said softly. My voice didn't shake. I placed the fruit, picked up the empty bottle, and stepped into the cooler interior of the house. In the quiet hallway, I leaned my forehead against the cool wall. My heart thudded so violently the sound pulsed in my ears. "Hold it together, Alea," I whispered. "They'll be gone in a week. You survived construction in the 90s, a divorce, financial storms. You can handle their rudeness." When I returned, Zenobia watched me with an expression of idle superiority, the way one studies a curious beetle. So, Yulia, she drawled, you do everything yourself. No house staff. Sterling says, you fuss around because you're bored in retirement. I didn't answer. I poured their wine while an invisible thread inside me pulled tighter and tighter. Nearing the breaking point, I need to run to the market, I said suddenly. The words escaped without thought. I needed air, unpoisoned, untainted by arrogance. We're out of figs. You like figs with cheese, don't you? Oh sure, Kara said, already turning away. And get the big olives, not the cheap ones from last time. I grabbed my bag and walked out through the gate, not even changing clothes. The sun struck my face, but I welcomed it. I walked toward the ocean, down the winding road lined with moss-covered oaks. The roar of waves drowned out the echo of their voices. Among the vendors and the smell of fried shrimp, spices, and sea salt, I usually felt alive. The market bustled. People bartered, laughed, shouted. The air smelled of herbs and smoked fish. I stopped to choose figs, deep purple, ready to burst, buying them out of habit, still thinking about the people I had left behind. Then my phone vibrated in my dress pocket, a message from Sterling. My heart fluttered. Maybe he realized how his wife treated me, maybe he was apologizing. I opened it. The words blurred for a second, but the meaning hit like a blow to the ribs. Mom, we know it's your beach house, but Karis's parents feel uncomfortable. We want time alone with them to talk family matters. Please stay at a hotel for the rest of the week. We'll pay for the room. I stood frozen in the center of the market. People moved around me, brushing past, speaking, laughing, but all sound went silent. Your beach house. Uncomfortable. Move to a hotel. I reread it. The tears burning behind my eyes all day evaporated instantly. In their place came something sharper, a cold, pristine clarity. I finally saw the truth. The weak beams in my relationship with my son. The rot in the frame, the damage I'd been patching for years. And this time, I had no intention of stabilizing the ruins. They wanted alone time. They wanted to discuss family business in my home while sending me away like hired help. Very well. I didn't call. I didn't write paragraphs about respect or gratitude. Instead, I felt like a surgeon picking up a scalpel to remove the infection. I typed one word. Understood. Then I closed our conversation. I didn't search for hotels. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in 3 years, but kept for a day like this. Desmond Luxury. Real estate. The call connected instantly. Ms. Yu, he said in surprise. It's been ages. How can I help you? Hello, Desmond, I replied. My voice steady as the granite foundation of the house I designed. Are you still looking for buyers for prime waterfront property? Always, he said. Why? Is one of your neighbors selling? No, I said, staring at the shimmering ocean. I told him I was putting Indigo Point on the market. You're kidding, he blurted out, Indigo Point. But I wasn't joking, and I needed a buyer today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. I tossed the bag of figs into the nearest trash bin. The soft thud they made as they hit the bottom felt like a final sentence closing an old chapter. Then I turned and headed away from the market, not toward the house, but toward the waterfront, where Desmond worked behind those massive glass walls that made his office look like a fish tank. When I stepped inside, the rush of cold air and the faint aroma of premium roast coffee hit me instantly. Desmond solidly built. His eyes always half-narrowed like he was reading a contract only he understood. Sprang from his chair the second he recognized me. He knew my history with that house. He remembered the endless meetings with zoning officials, the hours of fighting for utilities, the battles I won tooth and nail just to build Indigo Point. He knew my signature meant seriousness. Olea, he breathed, scanning my simple sundress and bare face, which looked completely at odds with the steel in my gaze. Don't tell me you're genuinely doing this. Indigo Point, your crown jewel. I sat down without ceremony. I need an immediate showing, I said. Not next week, not tomorrow, today. I need the sale wrapped and done. Desmond slowly lowered himself into his chair, lacing his fingers together. His decades in luxury real estate had taught him to deal with impulsive millionaires, eccentric retirees, and family feuds. He could sniff emotion from a mile away. Today is a flexible term in my industry, he said carefully. Most people mean within the month. You know how it works. Surveys, inspections, negotiations. My documents are spotless. I cut in. Clean title. No liens. I'm the only owner. Number. Negotiation. What I need is someone with cash who wants the place immediately. Someone ready to pay for instant takeover. Desmond narrowed his eyes. He was searching my face for signs of panic or breakdown, but all he could see was cold precision. Did something happen? He asked quietly. A new chapter has started, I said, and the old walls don't belong in it anymore. Do you have a client for that? He chewed the inside of his cheek, then abruptly turned to his keyboard. There's one, he muttered. Titus Titan Banks. Developer from Atlanta. Filthy rich. Temper like lightning. He's been itching to get your property for years, says the view alone is priceless, and he's here in town right now. Wants something he can literally move into tomorrow. But he's a difficult man, Yulia, not easy. I'm not shopping for a friend, I replied. I'm selling a house. Call him. Say no more. Desmond dialed, put the phone on speaker, and shot me a conspiratorial grin. Mr. Banks, Desmond here. Remember that waterfront place? Yes, the one with the terraces. The owner's ready. Yes, today. The price. He looked at me. I wrote a figure on a slip of paper, enough money to build a peaceful life anywhere on the planet, and slid it across the desk. He let out a low whistle and read the number aloud. A booming laugh erupted from the phone. If it's half as good as you described, I'll take it without even stepping foot inside. We're heading out now. Meet me in 40. Desmond ended the call and chuckled. He took the bait. Now sign this preliminary letter of intent, just so you don't back out on a wave of emotions. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't even twitch. I wasn't signing away a home. I was signing myself free as the ink dried. A weight that had been pressing on me for years finally began to peel away. I stood. No longer the obedient mother or unpaid housekeeper they assumed I was. I was Alea Thorne, builder of her own future. Thanks, Desmond. I'll see you at the house. Outside, I caught my reflection in the window, a worn-out woman with messy hair and a plain dress. No, not like this. I wouldn't walk back into that house looking defeated. I walked into the boutique next door, the one my daughter always pretended she was too rich for but secretly too broke to shop in. I didn't need a whole outfit. I needed armor. I chose a deep green silk scarf threaded with gold, dignified, commanding. I tied it the same way I used to before defending architectural proposals in my early career. Then, I picked oversized tortoiseshell sunglasses. The kind that hide every flicker of exhaustion and reveal nothing. After paying, I stepped outside feeling different. The scarf cooled my neck. The glasses created a protective barrier no one could cross. I slipped into a seaside cafe, ordered an espresso, and watched the town clock tower. 30 minutes. That's all I had left, and for the first time all day, I felt anticipation, electric, exhilarating. The thrill of someone holding a winning hand while everyone else thinks she's bluffing. I thought of their smug faces during lunch, their arrogance, their certainty that I would pack a bag and scurry away so they could enjoy my house in peace. They believed they held control. They had no idea. I pulled out my phone. One more move. A small but crucial strike. I opened my banking app and pulled up my pension deposits, 3 years' worth, showing clearly that my son had never supported me financially, despite what he told his in-laws. Then I opened a cloud folder containing a scan of the property deed, dated 2003, naming only me as the owner. I stored the file separately, locked it with a password. Then, I opened my messages and selected the Vance's number, one I had saved, just in case, but never used. I attached the protected file and typed, "A small gift for the family. I'll give you the password when we meet." Send. Delivered instantly. 2 ticks. I could imagine them on my terrace, both phones chiming at once. Perhaps they thought I'd sent a recipe or baby photos that don't exist yet. They wouldn't know what they were looking at, not yet, but curiosity would dig its claws in soon enough. My phone buzzed again. Desmond, Titan has arrived. Heading over now. You've got 15 minutes. I downed the espresso. The bitterness tasted sweet. I adjusted my glasses, walked to the taxi stand, and headed toward Indigo Point. The ride up the serpentine road brought back memories, the sea shimmering through the trees, the pines arching overhead like guardians. But the woman who once lived in that house wasn't returning. She had stayed behind at the market. With the crushed figs that the taxi rolled to a stop at the gate, a massive black SUV was already parked. Desmond stood by it, watching the minutes tick by. Titan Banks, a towering man in a sand-colored linen suit, paced along the fence. Bellowing into his phone, I stepped out. Desmond sighed with relief. Titan ended his call and studied me with sharp interest. I walked toward them, calm, composed, untouchable behind my glasses. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," I said. "My apologies for keeping you waiting. Miss Yulia, Titus let out a low grunt, looking me up and down with amused interest. So Desmond told me you were some sweet old granny, he said, but what I'm seeing is a commander. I like that business trait. Time is money, Mr. Banks, I replied, unlocking the gate. Let's make this efficient. The tour won't take long. We stepped into the courtyard. From deep inside the garden, toward the terrace, came the clatter of glass and Karis's shrill laughter. They were celebrating drinking my wine, lounging in my home, certain they had chased me away for good. I paused and looked at the two men beside me. Before we go in, I said in a low voice, one condition. There are people inside who have no right to be here. They aren't aware of the sale, and they believe they're entitled to the property. I need you to play along. You are not merely a buyer, you are the incoming owner, the kind who brooks no resistance. A slow wolfish smile spread across Titus's face. His eyes sparkled with mischief. Evicting freeloaders, better than closing a deal. Lead on, Miss Yulia. Let's put on a performance. We walked down the stone path. Laughter swelled from the terrace, carefree, smug. I heard Sterling's voice, relaxed as if he had won something. Yeah, Dad. Cheers to us. I climbed the terrace steps. Titus and Desmond flanked me like imposing sentinels. Showtime. I threw open the sliding glass doors. The noise inside collapsed instantly, like sound sucked out of a vacuum. Sterling froze with his glass midair, his jaw practically unhinged. Karis perched on his lap, slid off him like a startled cat and perched stiffly in her own chair, eyes narrowing into slits. The Vances, Thaddeus, and Zenobia sat with forks raised, staring at me like some stray mutt had wandered into their private feast. But I didn't look like a stray. I stood tall in my silk scarf and dark shades, with two well-dressed men towering behind me. Mom. Sterling stammered first. His voice trembled. Mom, you came back. We had an agreement. Karis jumped in immediately, smoothing her dress and plastering on that insincere sugary smile she used for family she despised. Oh, Miss Eulalia, she chirped, stepping forward and subtly blocking the table's half-eaten luxuries. You must have forgotten something. Passport, suitcase. We assumed you'd already checked into the hotel. We even wired you taxi money. She reached into her purse. I knew what was coming. She was about to pull out some wrinkled bills and shove them into my hand like I was a nuisance. She could pay to disappear. Her parents watched approvingly. This was their method. Throw money at the problem until the problem leaves. Yes, boomed Thaddeus without rising. Not cool. In-law. A deal's a deal. Kids wanted privacy, and here you are with strangers. He waved his fork toward Titus and Desmond. Who are these two? Your gentlemen callers from the retirement home. Zenobia giggled behind her napkin. Thaddeus, stop. Maybe they're porters. Miss Yulia, let them take your bags and let's keep the evening pleasant. I didn't speak. I simply stared at them behind the dark tint of my glasses. Karis finally fished out a crisp $50 bill and held it out delicately, like a queen bestowing charity. Here, she announced loudly, go treat yourself to dinner. And please, leave. We're in the middle of a family discussion. Sterling still hadn't met my eyes. He twisted his wine glass stem, hoping the world would swallow me so he wouldn't have to choose. Mom, he muttered almost inaudibly, don't embarrass us, just go. The word go hit like a silenced bullet, quiet, but lethal. He had chosen them. Fully. Finally, slowly, I removed my glasses. My gaze was dry, even, and sharp as a blade. I ignored Karis's money, walked right past her, and positioned myself dead center in the room. Mr. Banks, I said clearly, come in. Titus strode forward with his large, thundering presence, bumping Karis aside so abruptly she stumbled. He surveyed the room like a man inspecting his new kingdom. Not bad, he rumbled. His voice seemed to shake the walls. High ceilings, lots of air. I like homes that breathe. Karis gasped. Who are you? She shrieked. How dare you storm into our house? Sterling, call the police. Sterling stood halfway, took one look at Titus's size, and sat back down, defeated. Excuse me, he sputtered. This is private property. Exactly, Thaddeus yelled, rising to full height. His face burned red. This is my daughter and son-in-law's home. Leave before I have private security throw you out. And you, Yulia, dragging random men in here. Have you finally lost your mind? I turned calmly to Titus, ignoring all the yelling behind me. As you can see, the living area receives abundant natural light, I said, continuing my tours as if none of them existed. Open layout with intuitive division of space. The kitchen flows seamlessly into the lounge. Titus snorted approvingly, fully in character now. He rapped a knuckle on the wall, stomped once on the floor. Solid, not drywall. Feels like stone. And the view. Let's see the balcony. Of course, I said. Right this way. We walked directly through the cluster of stunned faces. Karis lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. One even scratched. What are you doing? She hissed. Her mask ripped away. Her face was twisted with panic. Are you insane? In front of my parents. Do you want to destroy everything? I told you to leave. I stared down at her hand gripping me, then lifted my eyes to hers. Take your hand off me. I said softly but with such cold authority, she recoiled instantly. As though I'd burned her. And do not interrupt the showing. Showing, Zenobia repeated, blinking. What showing? I looked at each of them in turn, Zenobia, Thaddeus, Sterling, then turned back to Titus. Double quotes, Mr. Banks, I said loudly enough for the whole terrace to hear. What do you think of the house? I'll buy it, he said simply. Great location, strong build. We agreed on the price earlier. I'll wire the funds now, as long as the keys are on the table within an hour. The room froze. You could hear a fly knock against the window. What do you mean? Buy it, Karis whispered. Her complexion went ashy beneath the makeup. I smiled, not softly, not kindly. A victor's smile. A checkmate smile. It means, my dear Karis, I said slowly, that the property has been sold. And as you can clearly see, I gestured lightly at them. The current occupants are unauthorized. They will be vacating within the hour. You can't, Karis screeched, spinning toward her parents. Mom, Dad, she's delusional. She has dementia. She thinks she's selling our house. Thaddeus's face tightened, his thick brows merging into a single dark line. He looked from me to Karis, and then to Sterling, who had gone pale as flour. Karis, he rumbled. What is she saying? Why is she claiming this house belongs to her? Karis faltered instantly. Dad, don't listen to her. She's only listed on paper for tax purposes. You know how these things are. We pay the mortgage. We invested everything here. This is our home. Tax purposes. Titus snorted. Lady, I reviewed the paperwork less than an hour ago. It's written clear as day. Alea Thorne sole and exclusive owner. No liens, no loans, no cosigners. Cleanest title I've ever seen. Karis opened her mouth but nothing came out. She searched for another lie. But the years of deception she'd constructed were collapsing on top of her. I walked to the coffee table where an ice bucket held champagne. Beside it was my folder from Desmond's office. I removed the original deed heavy stock paper, embossed seal, and held it directly under Thaddeus's nose. Read it, I said. You're the type who trusts documents, not emotions. Thaddeus took the paper reluctantly. His large, work-hardened hands shook. He grabbed his reading glasses, scanned the lines, then lifted his eyes to his daughter before checking the document again. Thorne, he read slowly. Land purchase agreement from 2001. Certificate of occupancy issued. 2005. He lowered the deed. The temperature in the room dropped. Karis, he said, soft but deadly. You told us, you and Sterling bought this place 3 years ago. You claimed you took a huge mortgage. You begged for help with the down payment. Dad, Karis staggered back. We sent you money every month, Thaddeus growled, voice building like a storm. $5,000. Every month, for 3 years, to help you pay off the loan. I stayed silent. The truth was slicing through them without my help. Where is the mortgage, Karis? He thundered, slamming his palm on the table so hard the glasses trembled. Where is the loan if this house has been her property for 20 years? I looked at Sterling. He covered his face with both hands. There is no mortgage, I said quietly, meeting Zenobia's stunned eyes. I funded this house myself. Not once did I ask you for financial help. I never accepted a cent from your family. The silence exploded like a bomb. Thaddeus's face turned dark red, the color climbing his skin like boiling mercury. He stared at the document, then at his daughter. Then at his son-in-law hiding behind his hands. $5,000 a month, he rasped. 3 years, that's $180,000. Where is that money, Karis? Cornered. Karis tried her usual tactic, attack to distract. Dad, you don't understand, she screeched. The house needed upgrades, renovations. We spent it all fixing things. New tiles, new windows, plumbing, roof work. A short laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Renovations, I repeated, touching the wall's textured plaster. Karis, this finish is from 2010. Expert Italian craftsman, perfectly maintained. The tiles, 2008 edition. I chose them. The windows. Installed 5 years before you even married Sterling. Nothing, and I mean nothing here was renovated with your money. You're lying, Karis trilled. You're just a stingy old enough, Thaddeus roared, rattling the chandelier. He advanced on her, towering like a mountain ready to crumble. How dare you insult the woman whose home you live in? You deceived us. You bled us dry. You think we're fools. Zenobia, who'd been frozen, suddenly grabbed her chest and sobbed. Karis, sweetheart, how could you? We sent you that money from your father's retirement fund. We thought you were drowning. Sterling finally lowered his hands. His face looked ghost-like. I didn't know, he whispered, trembling. Mr. Vance, I swear, I didn't know. Karis said you were just helping with groceries, small things. I thought it was gifts. Gifts, Thaddeus bellowed. Gifts worth an executive's salary. Are you even a man? You didn't wonder where she got the furs, the new cars, the flights to Tulum while you scraped by at your junior position. You never asked. Sterling shrank. Blindness had been easier than the truth. It kept him comfortable. It kept him complicit. He'd betrayed me with his silence. Yes, but now I saw he was just another puppet. Karis pulled in every direction. Okay. Touching family soap opera. Titus cut in loudly, leaning on the doorframe and flicking a toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other. But time is money. Are we proceeding with the deal, or do I call my crew for the eviction? My demolition team is waiting. They wanted to knock down a wall at sunrise. The word demolition hit the Vances like ice water. Reality finally sank in. They were standing in a house that no longer belonged to them, about to be cleared out by a man who definitely didn't bluff. Demolition. Zenobia squeaked, horrified. Tomorrow, but where will we stay? Our flight isn't until 3 days from now. Not my headache, Titus shrugged. Hyatt's got suites, ocean view, fancy soaps, whatever you folks like. Should I call you a ride? Thaddeus slumped into a chair. All the arrogance and superiority drained out of him. He looked like a weary old man who'd just discovered he'd raised a monster. Alea, he said, using my name with respect for the first time. Forgive us, we were deceived. We believed. You believed I was a pathetic relative living off your successful daughter. I finished sharply. You assumed you were supporting me, not that I was sheltering you. You thought money gave you the right to mock me, but you weren't paying me. You were paying for lies. Thaddeus nodded heavily. There was no fight left in him. You're right, he said. We were wrong. We'll pack now. Dad, Karis shrieked, grabbing his arm. You're giving up. You're just letting her throw us out. This is all an act. She's bluffing. She didn't sell anything. Her eyes burned with wild disbelief as she spun toward me. You won't sell this house, Karis hissed. You wouldn't dare. This is Sterling's inheritance. You're required to leave it to him. Required? I stepped right up to her. I was required to raise a son. I did. I was required to educate him. I did. But I am not required to fund his weakness or your greed. This home is my retirement plan, Karis, and I just collected it. I nodded toward Desmond. Bring the contract. Mr. Banks, we'll sign right here while they pack. Desmond, who had been standing silently like a shadow, pulled a folder from his case, laid the papers out, and slid aside a half-eaten plate. Sign here, he said, handing Titus an expensive pen. Titus walked over, skimmed the document, grunted, and signed with a flourish. Done. Money transferred. Check your phone, Miss Yulia. My phone chimed. A bank alert. 6 zeros. Payment received, I said, turning the screen toward Karis. The house is no longer mine and it was never yours. You have 45 minutes to leave. The clock has started. Karis stared at the screen, frozen like she'd been stunned. Her world was caving in, not just the house, but her entire scheme, her lifestyle, her status. No, she breathed. No, this can't be happening. Then Sterling did something I never imagined. He stood, walked to Karis and gripped her shoulders. Karis, he demanded, where is my parents' money? She jerked away. Let go. Not now. Can't you see we're being thrown out? Forget the house. For once, answer me. Sterling shouted, his voice louder than I had ever heard. Where is the $180,000? What did you do with it? On us, she screamed. On your stupid car. On your clothes. So you wouldn't look pathetic around my friends. So we could live like actual people. My car is financed. Sterling yelled back. I pay for it every month. You only helped with the down payment. You said that. And what about the rest? The clothes? The luxury retreats you take every other month in Dubai? Thaddeus added with a roar. Yes, Karis shrieked. I wanted a beautiful life. And you? You're all misers. You have millions sitting in accounts but begrudge your daughter a decent life. She crumbled into hysterics. tears dragging mascara down her cheeks. I deserve it. I'm the thief. You're a thief, Thaddeus said, each word heavy as a gavel. You stole from us. You lied to your husband. You spat on his mother. He turned to Sterling. Pack your things, son. You're coming with us. We need to talk. Sterling nodded. He looked shattered, but there was a strange new sharpness in his eyes. But Karis wasn't done. She felt control slipping through her fingers over her parents, over her husband, over the entire situation. She needed a final weapon. The biggest one. She straightened, wiped her face, and smiled a wild, victorious smile. You can't throw me out, she said, loud and clear. And you, Sterling, aren't going anywhere. And you, Dad won't leave me. And why's that? Titus asked, folding his arms. Amused by the spectacle, Karis placed a hand on her flat stomach. Because I'm pregnant, she declared. You're getting a grandson and heir. You can't abandon a pregnant woman. And you're about to be a grandmother. You won't dare. Silence slammed into the room. Sterling froze, staring at her. Pregnant, he whispered. Karis, is that real? Zenobia gasped and clutched her heart. Thaddeus stiffened, his fury faltering at the idea of a grandchild, a family legacy. I watched Karis, her stance, her expression, the way she scanned every face, measuring reactions. And I knew. I just knew. Sterling stepped closer, voice shaking with mixed hope and terror. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted it to be special, Karis cried, instantly flipping into fragile mother mode. I was saving it for a family moment. And all this stress, you're hurting the baby. Zenobia rushed to her daughter, forgetting the stolen money entirely. Oh, sweetheart, don't cry. Thaddeus, say something. We can't do this to her. Thaddeus frowned, red with anger but clearly conflicted. Tradition weighed heavily on him. A grandson could cleanse everything. Titus tapped his watch impatiently. Okay, episode 11 of the family drama. Ms. Yulia, what's the verdict? Are we evicting the expectant mother or not? Everyone turned toward me. Karis with arrogance. Sterling with desperation. The Vances with pleading hope. But I didn't look at any of them. My eyes landed on the table. Among the dishes, an empty bottle of vintage brut. Another half, and beside Karis's plate a wineglass with golden bubbles still clinging to the bottom. I walked over, lifted the bottle. The glass was still warm. Interesting, Karis, I said, my voice cutting through the silence like a bell. Very interesting. What? She snapped, but fear flashed in her eyes. Strange lifestyle for a pregnant woman. I held up the bottle so everyone could see the label. Brut Imperial, 12% alcohol. You drank almost the whole bottle. I poured for you twice myself, and you asked for refills. Karis turned sheet white. That's non-alcoholic. She spat out. No, darling. I shook my head slowly. This bottle isn't supermarket junk, I said calmly. It's aged wine from my private cellar. I know every label, every cork, every year. And you of all people know the taste of real alcohol. You weren't sipping. You were laughing, toasting, demanding refills. A woman who's truly expecting doesn't drown herself in champagne under this heat. Sterling stared at the bottle in my hand, then at the empty glass sitting by Karis's plate, then finally at her face. You were drinking, he said, stunned. I watched you. 3 glasses, Karis. You lied. I barely tasted it, she shrieked, backing away. Just 1 sip to relax. Doctors say it's fine. Doctors approve of getting drunk until your neck turns blotchy, Thaddeus growled. He marched up to her, grabbed her chin, and glared into her eyes. Breathe. Karis flinched, twisting away, and that tiny movement exposed everything. The heavy scent of alcohol filled the warm room. Unmistakable now that the facade had cracked open. You're not pregnant, Thaddeus declared, voice dripping with disgust. He wiped his hand on his trousers as though touching filth. You're a manipulator who would even fake a child to save herself. It was a mistake. Karis collapsed onto a chair, sobbing. I thought maybe my period was late. I felt different. I didn't even take a test, yet enough. Thaddeus sliced through her excuses. He turned sharply to Sterling. Listen carefully, son. I may be strict, but I'm fair. This woman, he pointed at the trembling wreck in the chair, is consumed by greed and lies. She stole from us, insulted your mother, and fabricated a pregnancy to control us. If you walk out with her today, if you forgive this, then you are finished with me. I'll cut her out of everything. I'll close every account. She won't see a single cent, and you, if you stay, will survive on your junior associate salary. Drowning in debts, I'm sure she's already piled on. Sterling looked shattered, staring at the woman who had reduced herself to a mascara-smeared mess. Then he looked at MeSteady.com, unshaken, and then at Thaddeus, who handed him a lifeline or a guillotine. depending on his choice. Sterling, Karis wailed, grabbing at his sleeve. Don't listen to them. I love you. We'll manage. They're trying to separate us. Separate, Zenobia whispered. She stepped close to Sterling, taking his hand with trembling fingers. Tears filled her eyes. Son, I hate saying this about my own blood, but she will destroy you. She already started. Please, run. Divorce her. Send her home. We'll handle her rehab, monastery, whatever it takes. Just save yourself. The fear and sincerity in Zenobia's eyes cracked the last of Sterling's defenses. He gently pulled his hand free from Karis's grasp. I'm filing for divorce, he said. His voice was soft, but solid, stronger than it had been in years. What? Karis froze. I said. He repeated, louder, I'm divorcing you. I don't believe anything you say. I'm done being played for a fool. He turned to me. Mom, I'm sorry. I was blind. I nodded. I wanted to pull him into a hug, hold him like when he was a boy, but feelings could wait. The lesson still needed to sink in. I forgive you, I said quietly, but the house is sold. You'll need to leave with them. He lowered his head. I know. I'll go to a hotel. I need to think. Excellent. Titus clapped once. Drama wrapped. Ending clear. Exit stage left. Ladies and gents, my workers are waiting. Thaddeus grabbed Karis by the elbow. Zenobia picked up her handbag. Sterling snatched his coat. Karis screamed, cursed, swore vengeance, promised lawsuits, but her father dragged her out with the force of a bulldozer. 5 minutes later, their car screeched through the gates and disappeared. Silence settled on the terrace. Only me, Desmond, Titus, and the sea. Well then, former landlady. Titus winked, pulling out a cigar. Nicely executed. Straight out of a Hollywood script. Money's wired, papers signed. When do I get the keys? I walked to the railing, watching the sun sink into the horizon, turning the waves into molten gold. That view right then felt priceless, more precious than the 6 zeros in my account. I turned back to him. Mr. Banks, how about we rewrite the ending? Titus puffed out a thick cloud of smoke, studying me with the amused curiosity of a high-stakes gambler watching someone bet everything on the river card. Rewrite the ending, he echoed. He tapped ash right over my favorite roses. On any other day, I'd have yelled, but not today. Ulaya, he said. This isn't a theater play. You signed, I signed. Money's transferred. Legally, this is my balcony. Desmond fidgeted, nervously cleaning his fogged glasses. Olaya, he whispered. What are you doing? The deed is practically processed. My assistant already sent the scans. You can't just. I can, I interrupted, eyes still on Titus. The transfer hasn't fully settled yet. We can reverse it as a mistaken payment or void the contract by mutual consent. And why? Titus asked, leaning closer, massive arms folded. Would you want to back out? You got a great price. You shook off dead weight. Why keep a house soaked in betrayal? If I were you, I'd take the money and go to Bali. I looked at the now darkening sea. This house doesn't reek of betrayal, I said. It holds my years, my work, my life. The betrayal was in the people. The walls didn't fail me, and now that those people are gone, I don't want to lose the home. I straightened. I sold it to burn the bridge, so my son and his wife couldn't cling to the idea of returning. So I couldn't slip back into being the convenient mother. The show had to happen, but the show is over. Desmond made a strangled squeak. But my commission, you get it, I said. All of it. Payment for Best Supporting Actor. He instantly calmed, even brightened. Now everything hinged on Titus. He could refuse. He could demand I leave. Legally, he held all the cards. I was betting everything again, and what do I gain? Titus asked, locking eyes with me. From walking away, I wasted my afternoon. Drove all the way here. I was already imagining my pool table in that living room. Why should I just leave? I propose you take the full amount back right now, I said steadily, plus an additional 5%. Consider it compensation for your time, and for the entertainment you clearly enjoyed while tossing my daughter-in-law out. Titus smirked, the corners of his mouth twitching. 5% is generous, he drawled, but a little light for the heartbreak of losing my dream beach house. My stomach tightened. If he refused, I'd end up wealthy but without a roof, cut adrift from the one place that grounded me. 10, I countered. That's my final offer, and it's a hefty sum for 1 hour of your evening. Titus burst into booming laughter so loud the seagulls fluttered off the roof tiles. He slapped the railing. Well, I'll be damned. Iron Lady, an architect with a backbone. I like that. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the contract we had signed barely 20 minutes earlier. spinning it between his fingers. You know, Ms. Ulea, he said calmly, I knew from the start you weren't actually ready to part with this place. What? I blinked, stunned. The eyes, he tapped at his temple. 3 decades in business teaches you the look. Some owners want to unload a property, and others, they'd tear the throat out of anyone who tried to take what's theirs. When you showed me the place, you touched the walls like they were family, you gazed at the vines like they were your children. Real sellers don't do that. Then with one sharp movement he ripped the contract in half. The clean tear turned the legal document into useless scraps. He folded the halves and tore them again. I'm not a scavenger, he said, tossing the shreds into the ashtray. I saw you were trapped, so I played along. I sized her up immediately. Pretty packaging, empty interior. Consider this my personal donation to cosmic justice. I stood frozen, barely able to believe it. The tension I'd been carrying all day drained from my body, and my knees weakened. You're refusing the penalty? I asked faintly. The extra 10%. Oh no, he grinned. Don't be silly. You're still paying that? Business is business. But the house stays yours. He turned to Desmond. Cancel the transaction. Tell the bank there was an error in the routing numbers. Desmond nodded quickly, already dialing. Titus extended his hand toward me, his grip enormous and warm. Pleasure doing business with a smart woman. And now, if you don't mind, I'll take a glass of that sparkling wine your pregnant daughter-in-law abandoned. Here's to victory. I shook his hand. With pleasure, I said. I'll open a new bottle. That one's gone flat. We returned inside. The silence of the house, once oppressive now, felt like a blessing. But just as I let myself breathe, a sharp vibration cut through the quiet. My phone buzzed on the table, the screen glowing with a name. Sterling. The device shook on the polished wood, almost frantic, as though it had a life of its own. Sterling. The name alone stirred a complicated tangle inside me, old, maternal worry, and a new, colder distance. Titus lifted his fresh glass and nodded at the phone. Gonna answer, or let the kids stew. I picked up the phone without accepting the call. Let him stew, I said, pressing decline. Silence will do him good. But the phone rang again, and again, and again. By the 4th attempt, it was clear something serious was unfolding beyond my gates. I answered, on speaker. Mom. Sterling's voice was ragged. Traffic blared behind him. A woman was screaming hysterically. Mom, it's insane out here. I hear you, Sterling, I said calmly, sipping cold champagne. Did the hotel turn you away? What hotel? We never made it, he shouted. Thaddeus stopped the car in the highway. He kicked Karis out. My brows lifted. Titus's eyes sparkled with amusement. Kicked her out, I repeated. You mean literally? Onto the road. Yes, he cried. They were arguing the whole drive. Karis started screaming that she'd sue them for every dollar they had. She called Zenobia an old, useless fool who knows nothing about life. And then Dad slammed the brakes, tossed her suitcase out and said, Walk. Maybe your brain will reset. Zenobia's weak voice could be heard in the background. Sterling, sweetheart. Water, my heart. Mom. Sterling rushed on, panic rising. We're at a gas station now. Zenobia's not well. Karis is back there on the highway screaming and throwing rocks at cars. I don't know what to do. Should I go back for her? Or take Zenobia to the hospital? I'm lost. I closed my eyes. My son, 35 years old, still calling mommy to navigate chaos born of his own spinelessness. Sterling, I said sharply, listen carefully. Call an ambulance for Zenobia immediately if she's unwell. Stay with her and Thaddeus. They're the victims here. And Karis is an adult, I snapped. She has a phone. She has cash, the same money she stole. She can call a taxi. She'll survive. But, she's my wife, he whispered weakly. She is a criminal. Sterling, I said coldly. And if you rush to rescue her now, you join her. You choose deceit over truth. Is that what you want? Silence. Then the sound of him breathing heavily, fighting old habits of people pleasing. No, he finally said. No, I'm not going back. I'm staying with the van. We're headed to the police. Thaddeus wants to file fraud charges. That's the right choice, I said. Brace yourself. It'll be a long night. Mom, what about you? His voice cracked. Can I come to your place after? I don't have anywhere to go. The city apartment, Karis lied. It's rented, not ours. I glanced at my peaceful living room, the empty chairs once filled by people who treated me as insignificant. Titus examining a painting. Desmond finishing his coffee. My home was finally mine again. Clean, sacred. I couldn't let chaos cross that threshold. No, Sterling, I said gently but firmly. You cannot come here. What? Why? You didn't even sell the house. I'm here, I replied. But this home is officially quarantined from foolishness, weakness, and other people's disasters. Get a hotel. Fix your life. Without my advice. Without my cooking. Without my roof. Only then will you become a man. Mom, you're abandoning me? I'm releasing you, I corrected. Very different things. Call me in a month when you have a finalized divorce and an actual plan. Goodbye for now. I pressed end call before he could reply. My hand with the phone dropped onto the table, and the emptiness inside felt like a room, freshly swept and aired, clean, quiet, and unclaimed. Titus clapped slowly, deliberately. Bravo, he said, no trace of irony. That was stronger than selling the house or refusing your own son. That's nerves of steel. That's love. I smiled faintly, letting the tension melt. Sometimes, love, I said, isn't holding someone up. Sometimes love is letting them stand on their own. Titus nodded approvingly. Wise, very wise. I turned to Desmond. Get the cognac, I said. The Armenian brandy you gifted me 5 years ago. Still waiting for a proper celebration. His eyes lit up. 20-year-old Armenian. In the car, ma'am. Be right back. I stepped onto the terrace, feeling the night fully claim the sky. Stars blinked sharp above the sea, and below, the waves rolled in a steady, eternal rhythm. Out there somewhere, my soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law might be screaming on the roadside. Out there, my son was taking the first adult steps of his life. And here I was, on my land, feeling warmth in the stone under my feet, and the scent of night flowers filling my senses. I was alone and free. But the story had one last nuance, a quiet twist Titus did not know. When I had sent the Vances the scanned deed, I attached one more document, Karis's bank statement, obtained through connections in the banking sector. I had known about the diverted money all along. I was giving them a chance, a moment to act honestly. And now, sitting at the police station, Thaddeus would open that file with a password I had sent, revealing not just numbers, but the true recipients of the transfers. And one name would make him gasp. A fitness trainer. Taymane, Washington. $2,000 weekly with the note supplements. I typed the message to Thaddeus. Password, 1988. Look at the last pages. Now the finale was truly irreversible. I returned to the living room. Desmond was already pouring the amber liquid into To a new life, said Titus. To freedom, I replied. Clinking glasses, my phone pinged again, but not Sterling or Thaddeus. A travel app. Rome. The price for tickets had dropped. My dream city. I smiled faintly. Do you know it's artichoke season there? I said to Titus. He laughed. Ms. Eulea, you never cease to surprise. Going. Tomorrow. I answered decisively. But dawn would bring one more unexpected visitor. Morning arrived not with birdsong but with insistent knocking at the gate. Coffee in hand, suitcase packed, ticket ready. I was prepared for nothing. At the gate stood not Sterling, not Karis, not the police. A courier with a huge basket of white roses. Behind him, leaning casually against the hood of an SUV, was Titus. I opened the gate. Mr. Banks, I asked, adjusting my sunglasses. No jacket today, Ms. Eulea, he said, smiling. I didn't come for things. I came with a proposal. The courier placed the basket at my feet. Among the blooms was a white envelope. This is for you, Titus said. My brow arched. What's inside? A management contract, he replied. I know you're heading to Italy. The house will be empty. I fell in love with Indigo Point and your garden. I want to rent it for the summer, with one condition. You let me send photos of the roses for advice. I'm hopeless at gardening, and it would be a shame to ruin them. I laughed, feeling light for the first time in years. And then, lowering his voice, I'll keep an eye on the house, so no relatives sneak back in. My security is persuasive. The deal was perfect. House maintained, flowers alive, extra funds for travel, security guaranteed. I extended my hand. An hour later, I sat in a taxi. Titus remained behind, the temporary master of the villa, tending roses and guarding against ghosts of the past. I watched my home fade into the distance, waves sparkling beside it. My phone pinged. Sterling, Mom, I filed the report. Karis was detained for disorderly conduct on the highway, and the loan transfers came out. Bad news for her. I rented a room, looking for work. Forgive me, I'll handle it. I smiled and typed back. I believe in you. Handle it. See you in a month. I'll bring an Italian tie. Love you. Then I blocked Karis's number. Forever. Asterisk leaning back. Inhaling the leather of the taxi seat, I watched the road stretch ahead. Rome, my dream, awaited. Ahead lay a life that belonged solely to me. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I heard only the music of my own soul. Silence was magnificent.